Here's the staging area for Bourke Street Mark II. Jimmy was Bourke Street Mark I. This is Bourke Street Mark II. And look, the timing, as a few others have mentioned, that for this event was the Jimmy Gargasaurus is just about to wrap up. And they're really stretching it, trying to apply new laws to something that happened nearly 2 years ago. So they had to have something new. They were just getting by with Bangladeshi women and that, but they really needed something big to start cutting it. But so just showing you the area here. Now, the reason they chose this as the stage is, firstly, it's got some natural barriers there, and it could be easily cordoned off. Now, what they did was, and also you've got the trees above. See, they didn't want anyone filming from above, so they've got the cover of the trees as well, so that was important. Now, if you just have a look at this shot here, right at the start of the first part of the guy wielding the knife, the terrorist. And one of the big features of this event was the burning car. Now, they made out like there were some gas cylinders in it that were going to explode, but they didn't. And but the real purpose of the car was to, as an excuse, to clear the area so they could then stage the dramatic footage of the guy trying to stab the cops with the knife. And what they've done is they've wheeled this car in, set it on fire, and then there was already a lot of undercover cops or operatives dressed up as members of the public, and they would have been acting like just, take charge kind of members of the public and just, guys, a fire, come on, let's get out here, clear back everyone, and people would tend to follow them like they did with Costa, the guy in Bourke Street Mark I, the supposed tailor at the menswear shop that was sort of ordering people around, and that's sort of what they do when they need to clear the area. Because as you can see there's no trams, no cars, no nothing. So they'd already planned for that not to be there already. But as far as the people goes, there's lack of people. So anyone there are part of the operation. They're sanctioned to be in that area. So, and everyone else is way, way back. The Mad Pieman made mention of the clearing of the area to that effect as well. So I'm sort of going by him as well. So thanks for that, Mad Pieman. So that's where they've set the stage. So, okay, burning car, clear everyone out. So it's all cleared, controlled, trees above, and they've got control of all the camera footage, which fooled me because there was so much of it. Little did I know that they were filming it for their own purposes and they weren't actually members of the public. So I mistakenly thought. So that's the stage all set, ready to go. Now, for each one of these events, they need a hero. They need a heartwarming story of an underdog. In Minto, we had Sevi, the Islander guy up the street, the family guy who saved ISIS, who saved Grid off ISIS guard, got the Fort Everest, and you had Lou the cabbie there at in Bourke Street Mark I, the Jimmy saga, and I needed one for this one. Now, I'll tell you, this has got to be some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen. It's a bit of a difficult one for them because the guy's waving a knife. So it was, they've done well to try and weave in a story of heroics the way that they have. You might think that inserting a hero is they're just being a bit frivolous, just, playing up to the public a bit. But that's a very key role in these hoaxes because what it does is it's very distracts from asking about, all the details that would probably lead you down the path that there's something not quite right with this. But also it gives the media hours and hours of something to chew on. I'll just play what Ben Fordham in Sydney's 2GB had to say, and he encapsulates how they're using emotion to distract from doing any serious analysis of what actually happened.
I've been reporting on tragedies for a long time, but I must tell you, on Friday, I did become emotional on air to the point that I couldn't talk a couple of times for probably about 10 seconds or so. But
Jeff, right now, look, in Sydney, a lot of people wouldn't listen to him because this guy is just so annoying, such a pontificating, know-it-all, righteous dickhead. And he has his fake phone calls that people ring up and they're just reading a script, and then the script is there to show him as he comes back with, no, you're an idiot, and he comes over the top, and that's how he's trying to build his credibility, but he's just a little dweeb, little dickhead. one of those Ibrahim boys really took him down once trying to do a live cross. He never did another live cross with Ibrahim again. That was on a current affair or something, or the news. And yeah, Ibrahim made him look like the right dickhead and started laughing at him, and he kind of backed right off. But anyway, he's got the gig there at 2GB's. I think he's going to replace Stefanovic at 9 as well. So, you know, it's going to be hard to get away from this sort of an idiot. But look, he reads the scripts. So, you know, he's front and centre. He'll be there. But yeah, this guy hasn't stopped talking for 10 seconds ever. He just never stops talking. He could talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles, this guy. He just never shuts up. So he told a bit of a faux pas there. But just listen to the rest of how he tries to focus on the emotion. And he's just doing his job, and he's highly paid. And he and his family are, you know, going to do all right. Although it's not going to be forever, Mr. Fordham. That's your problem. And any of these sellouts that are going along with this garbage at this point in time in politics, staging these hoaxes or in media, you know, you're just being used, all right? They're going to dump you all at the end of it. Anyway, let's just listen to the rest of his stupidity.
The reason was, apart from the enormity of what was happening in Bourke Street, Melbourne, it was the footage of the man ramming a trolley into the terrorist. The terrorist who was slashing at the police officers with a knife. It was the trolley man who ran across Bourke Street to chase the attacker and tried to bring him down. That's what really rattled me, because I just couldn't believe how amazing this bloke was. And I think we probably all get that way in the middle of a tragedy or a really sad situation. When you see someone doing something nice, it really moves you.
So it's those kinds of monologues on mainstream media, radio, television, that are trying to distract you away from the fact that it was an absolute stupid thing to do. First of all, it's ineffective, as the trolley man admits in an interview a bit later on. And secondly, if the police were really in danger, and look, Ashton said, and look, he said this because it's so obvious, and he's just trying to make out like, oh, we've just let it go because, you know, it's all emotional, but don't do it, anybody. And they wouldn't let anybody do it. Any member of the public do this because, like I said, if the police were really in danger, they'd shoot him first. Or they'd do something to him. They would deal with any member of the public, either yell at him, push him away. One of the cops would have pushed him away and guided him and sent him on his way, and while the other cop held the guy at bay, and that if it was real. But it wasn't, of course. So they're all part of the same theatrical group performing this performance, staging this performance. So let's just watch exactly how stupid and how banal this whole scene is. Oh, just before I get right into the trolley man, just make a point, and a lot of other people have made this point as well, it's very valid, that where the footage starts. It always starts, it's sort of, they've got everything set up, and this is just the theatrics and for the drama and all the media stories to come. And it's like someone's there, and action. It always starts at a particular point in time. You don't see the stabbing of Sisto or anybody else. None of that's on. And none of that's on. Meanwhile, they did show this guy getting shot. So it's not like they wouldn't show a stabbing if they showed this guy getting shot. Well, surely they would show the stabbing. Oh, it's too sensitive for people to see. You know, human being's a human being. Apparently he got killed at that point. Well, the shot ended up killing him. That's how bad it was. So it's not like they wouldn't show it. But just, I want to make the point that, yeah, they always start these scenes right at the point when they're ready to show the because they've already got the script for the media to read, and now I think they actually stage and choreograph these performances here to match the script. So just want to make that point. There he is trying to push the trolley into. Oh, there's a guy to the side. He's just keeping an eye on things. He falls down. Now, in reality, the cops would have been telling him to get away. He's obviously not going to be any help. Here's a cop playing his little part. The guy's dancing around, you know, not really getting too close, just waving it. All right, he pushes the trolley at him. Now, the trolley's loose, so it's falling down now. Okay, and then later on, here he is. This is when they moved it over to the staging area for the shooting. So come on, over you come. Keep coming. Yep, I've got to look back. Yep, come on. There's all the trees stopping him. And here he comes. He's followed him now with the trolley. And here's the trolley guy finally at the scene of the shooting where he needed to get to, which is weird. That's what the script called for. Of course, the trolley, you're not going to knock anyone over. Try and knock someone over with the trolley. You can't do anything with the trolley. You're not going to block them, but you're not going to disarm them or do anything like that. In that sort of melee, you've got more of a chance of blocking the cops. that you have a blocking the perpetrator, because no one knows which way the trolley is going to go. But I just want to also point out the guy with the checked shirt there. Now, he's carrying something as well. They described that as a traffic cone or something. I haven't seen them like that before, but that's what they described it as. And there's also this guy with the chair. So you've got the guy with the chair here, and then these two guys. So you've got three guys with props. The only three guys that are near this whole scene, that the police allow to be near the scene, with these cumbersome props that, you know, in any real situation would have been ordered out and screamed to get out of the way, let the police deal with it. But of course they're allowed to be there. Now, their role is to, I guess, keep, if any public did slip through or decide they wanted to get involved, then these three guys are there to make sure they don't. But more importantly for the trolley guy, he's got the dual role of being the Lou the cabbie or Sevi Archong hero role as well.
He's been hailed as a hero. He's also earned himself a nickname. He's been called the trolleyman for these incredibly brave efforts in ramming that shopping trolley into Shire Arley at the peak of his murderous rampage down here on Bourke Street. Now, that man's name is actually Michael Rogers. He's 46 years old. He is homeless. He sleeps rough down here on the streets of the CBD.
So just like Ben Fordham, this talking head's just being on about the emotional side of things and trying to get the emotion in by saying that he's homeless. Well, there's a bit more to that story. As with all these things, I think they try and cover their bases in case anyone does some digging, but there's a bit more information here in this article here where they go on to say, right at that top line there, Mr. Rogers has a public housing apartment. Well, as far as I understand, they're very, very hard to come by. And it says here that he chooses to be homeless. Well, like, if he just doesn't go home for a while, that doesn't make him homeless. He's got a home. In fact, he's got a very, very sweet deal of a home. And, you know, if he wasn't spending enough time there that he was classed as homeless, I'm pretty sure the authority that runs public housing would probably quickly give it to somebody else. So again, that's just another little bit of bullshit surrounding this guy. Like I said, not all is what it seems.
He's had a very long and checkered history with police and the legal system as well. He spent much of his adult life in and out of prison. But when it came to it on Friday afternoon, well, he sided with police. He got control of that shopping trolley and he has rammed it as hard as he could into Shire Arley in a bid to try and stop him. This is how Michael Rogers describes what happened.
I don't know if I'm a hero, but I feel good about what I did.
Oh, look, he's just not taking his eyes off that script. I mean, look, admittedly, if it was real, he'd probably need a script anyway. But no, this is all just scripted for him to read out.
Now, there's been plenty of gratitude shown towards Michael Rogers. A GoFundMe page was set up to try and raise some money for him. Now,
all right, you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts!
Now, initially they set out to raise around $45,000, but I can tell you that in the past 20 minutes or so, that has just ticked over $100,000, Nat.
These GoFundMe pages, they really do intrigue me, because remember the GoFundMe pages after Bourke Street Mark 1, and they're featured in a couple of other of these incidences, so they're becoming an integral part. Now, of course, he didn't set up the GoFundMe page himself. Apparently, a couple of these girls did. And what is it, some Donna girl? And she's just got Charity Port Melbourne. Well, you know, if she was trying to scam, you know, it might be a bit harder now. Although these registered charities, they can take up to 70-80% of the takings, and that's legal. So, you know, a lot of this money, it's not guaranteed to go to this guy. If it's part of the hoax, then, you know, perhaps you will see some of it because he needs to be paid. But there's some more, there's actually some more GoFundMe pages for this as well. Let's have a look at those. Here's another page started on the same day, the 10th. But Lisa Rowland, she's just got medical, so $762 of 10,000. So hers didn't trend like the other one. So Lisa's going to have to make do with a lot less money. And there's another one here. Does anyone recognise this guy? Was it Avi Yemeni? And his page is doing a bit better than Lisa's by none other than the famous Avi Yemeni. Now he's up to 8,283. Again, started on the same day, probably within minutes. of this thing going down. He couldn't start it before, although he probably could have. If anyone knows who Harvey is, he could have made that mistake. But he didn't. No, these GoFundMe pages, they all look legit. No one knew in advance what was going to happen. Anyway, so he's travelling all right. He's got a bit of money to play with there. You can put to some good use. Oh, he might even give some to this guy. Although I think Harvey would probably know a little bit more about what the is behind all this than the average Joe Blow, if you know Harvey. Anyway, so there he is. Oh, this picture's interesting too. He's got the other prop that the other guy had, and he's put it in his trolley. Now, I don't know what those two props have to do with each other, other than, well, what's he going to do with that? Doesn't it belong, isn't it some kind of traffic thing? Or I don't even know what it is. But what's he doing with it now? Is he just wheeling it off? Probably back to some television studio prop centre perhaps. In my next video, I'm going to talk about what happened to Sisto, the guy that was killed, and I do believe that he was killed, but not in the circumstances that they've described by a terrorist. So that therefore is I don't think it's a hoax. I think it's a false flag. I think they needed a victim, and I think they picked this guy out. And I'll talk about how they managed to kill him and keep his family on side, and state funeral, all that sort of stuff, and how they managed to do it. And I'll also talk about the terrorist, and like he's dead now, and there's no pesky. God, I left a message on the Pyman's live stream. There's no pesky court proceedings, and that was intentional as well. And I'll talk about him as well. I think he was controlled, certainly controlled, and he probably was complicit to some degree, but a bit like the Alisar Farr guy in the Minto debacle. I think that they killed him, after the fact. He didn't realise they were going to kill him, but he thought he was going along and, going to be rewarded. But I think they did kill him. They don't like loose ends. And, all these guys that are involved in this, they've, the trolleyman in particular, he can't, all that money, and he's on TV. He could easily turn up. Oh, it's too much for him. He committed suicide. They don't like loose ends. If they can, have a reason to sort of, and make it look reasonable for them to tie them up and them to be gone, well, that's what they'll do. So anyway, that's what my next video will be. All right, that's it.